topics. My name is Andrei. I'm currently the cybersecurity community leader here at Heimdal. I've been with Heimdal for almost 6 years now, and I've done a bit above 1,000 cybersecurity implementations. And these are implementations of one singular product up to stacks of 10, 12 products together. But yeah, the expert in the room is actually not me today. It's Mr. Nick. Exactly. So just to do a short intro, which I know I'll not do him justice, but still, Nick is one of the industry heroes, I would say. It's not easy to get the title from Microsoft as an MVP, most valuable partner, if I'm not mistaken. But Nick actually got it.
Most valuable professional, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Sure, make him an acronym. It's okay. There's too many TLAs anyways. So yeah.
Nick got it 4 times, guys. He ran a thriving MSP business. And at the point, he decided to change the mission, and he actually went into writing books, writing ebooks about this. And he basically has 30 plus years experience in the field of IT enterprise and cybersecurity. So that's why I just want to pass it to him to see exactly how he wants to position his credentials to the audience today.
It's absolutely fine what you did. Yeah. So I'm just honored to be here. I wanted to take all my experiences in the latter part of my career and just sort of find a way to communicate that and share with other people and make my living mostly, I would say, as like a technical evangelist. I also own a company called Conversational Geek, which I know we'll have a link to later on. And there's some great information there about that's MSP focused, and some of the stuff is just IT focused, but it's written by a bunch of industry experts and that sort of thing. So just honored to be here, honored to share. And have a chance actually to talk to all of you if you paid attention to the abstract. This is sort of you're deciding what we're going to talk about, and Andrei's got some great stuff planned that keeps you interactively telling us what are we doing next. It's not quite choose your own adventure for the next hour, but it's we're close to it anyway. As close as we can get.
Perfect. Then yeah, let's actually see what we're up to today. So. We are basically going to discuss the challenges that you have submitted in the registration form. We managed to group them in a way and find 3 main challenges, 3 main sources of said challenges. And we actually have sub situations out of each just to make sure that we cover them. But since people register and submit challenges, but sometimes they don't show up, based on what calendar and so on and so forth, nobody's judging. We actually will take live votes in the session to see exactly what's most of interest for you guys. And we're gonna start talking about those. We're gonna cover about 3, maximum 4 items per each of the 3 buckets based on what is most of interest for the people that are live in the session with us. Then we're gonna do something fun called Cyber Trivia, in which we're gonna ask you some questions and you can Google the answer if you want to. The person that comes closest to the response will win a Heimdal Home Premium license. This is next-gen AV, DNS, and patching for your home computer for 1 year. Questions are more than welcomed along the way because, yeah, let's keep it as interactive as possible since this session is for you. The only person that can tell us what's most valuable for you, guess what, is you, right? So please don't be shy. And now it's again another moment where you guys should be looking for that questions box and making sure you know where to find it so that you can participate both in the steering the conversation as well as in the cyber trivia game. And last but not least, we will have a dedicated Ask Me Anything session towards the end, but do let us know the questions, the scenarios, everything along the way. Do not shy away until the end. Because sometimes the information just goes away from the mind. So just be safe, put any questions in, any questions that you have in along the way. Good. Now, no more intro talk. Let's actually get to the matter at hand. So today we have gathered and we made this, this nice event so that we can talk about MSP challenges whenever faced with delivering effective cybersecurity services. And why not? You guys already deliver IT services, infrastructure, hardware, you name it, help desk, whatever. Sometimes you are even therapists, right, for your customers. So why not also add cybersecurity services? It's like not like you don't have what to fill in your time with, right? So scouting the internet, scouting the Reddit communities, Tech Tribe, Network Buying Group, all the communities that I could find, asking our database, asking you guys, we managed to find 3 main areas out of which challenges happen for you, which are first and most important, the area that actually gives us business, but also kind of gives us a bit of grief sometimes is customers. That's where it all starts. And sometimes it even ends, unfortunately. Second area that you have submitted, and thank you for submitting all of this, tools, right? You can't, you can actually try to hammer a nail in without a hammer, but at the end of the day, it's easier with the hammer. And last but not least, something that this is actually serious, it's been happening for a while now in the last few years, is the lack of expertise or the lack of human resources that are affordable, right? So looking at all of this, and again, thank you to everyone that actually took some time to actually put in that registration form, on the registration form, the challenges that you guys want to talk about. We really appreciated that. We managed again to group them in a few items because there were so many, right? And it's impossible to put everything on the page right now. But let's actually move this to the left over here. And let's see, what were the concerns that most of you registered under customers? First thing, not willing to invest in proper security. But at the same time, as most of you said, they actually want the effect of proper security, but they're not willing to invest in it, right? No brainer. What do we do? Second, they are demanding too many permissions. How often have you guys implemented something good, right? You did the effort, you convinced the customer, everything is good. And then they come in and say, but you know what, the C-level doesn't want the MFA. They don't want to put in another code when they log in, or they want to have permissions in the firewall to do XYZ. And you go like, okay, but why did we invest in security when you're exposing some of the most dangerous people in the organization to the internet that freely, or giving them admin rights? Let's not open that discussion, right? And over here, we play the first cyber trivia. Let's see if you guys can find the questions box. Please put a yes, no, put something in there, because I'll just have the question open for 60 seconds or so. Okay, so Kore says yes. Somaya, Simon, Andrew already knows it. Tracy, thank you, Tracy. Appreciate it. Daryl, okay, cool. So the majority of people saw the questions box. Let's play the first cyber trivia. Okay, in 2023, because that's a closed year, so we already know the stats. What was the average disclosed cost of an insider threat data breach? And this is in million, by the way. Danny, 150K. It's a million, Danny. What are those millions?
But a million what? A million pesos?
Dollars, by the way, dollars.
A million francs, which are no longer in use. But yeah, so yeah.
Okay. So we have Andrew, 25. We have Nikolai, 20. We have Danny, 1.5. Okay, let's see a few more. 32 from Somaya, thank you. 23 from Simon. Okay, Tracy is 15.38. I think that's actually pretty close. So we're gonna close this one. Tracy, you're the winner on this one. It's 18.33. And actually, there are two winners in this case. It's Nikolai with 20 and yourself, right? Woot woot, you're the winner, exactly. So guys, this comes from the Ponemon Institute. But out of all of these insider threats, if you think about it, how do they happen? Why do they have the space to actually do that in the beginning? Because if you do it properly, the security, the configuration and everything, even if they want to, it should be very difficult for it to happen, right? You can have as many disgruntled employees. You can have as many people that are malintended and they want to do harm to you. But if you do the things properly, they should not have the space to be able to do that. So based on that, we go back to our situation with customers demanding too many permissions, right? Then another reason that that you said it's super difficult to deliver effective cybersecurity is also because the customers are refusing to pull their own weight. They expect, if you're an MSP and you charge them something that they kind of sometimes say it's too much, but we all know, right, for what you do, what you charge them is pennies to the dollar. They still refuse to understand that this is a joint mission, this is a shared effort. So they don't pull their own weight. They go like, if there's a breach, you're to blame. But how many times did you guys do a tabletop exercise with me? How many times did you guys want to review the incident response plan with me, right? How many times did you participate in the meetings that I shared the stats and what happened with you guys? Kind of not too many, right? And last but not least, the item that, and this is from the Reddit community, they literally shouted this from the mountaintops. They have conflicting priorities. Sometimes they want something, they don't need that something. You tell them, you do your best job in explaining, but they still want that something. Why, we don't know, but they still do. So in the customer space, reasons why you can't deliver cybersecurity effectively, we have these 4 categories. Of course, they split into a lot of other things, right? But let's actually raise this for a vote to everyone. I'll put a poll on the screen and I want you guys to vote. Which of these situations, when it comes to customers, which of these challenges do you face most often? And you can vote multiple. And if there's another situation, please open the questions box and let us know in the questions box. And this is the moment when we start to stir the conversation the way you want it. Okay, we see the majority coming in for not willing to invest. Somebody is in the questions box letting us know some other things over here. Let's see, where are they? Okay, conflicting priorities, demanding too many permissions. Let's just give it 10 more seconds and I'll share the voting with you guys. Okay, let's see. Okay, some of them see cybersecurity as a hindrance to business operations. Oh, Andrew, you're so right. So right. Sometimes security, actually most of the times, aggressive security is on the opposite scale of operational flexibility, right? But at the end of the day, if your entire network and computers are offline, I would see that as the biggest hindrance. And I believe you're in the same bucket with me. Okay, so let's close. Let's share with everyone so that you guys see what the voting result was. So I believe, Nick, we're gonna start talking about situations when you, as a former owner of a thriving MSP business, were faced with people not willing to invest in proper cybersecurity, then people with conflicting priorities and people with demanding too many permissions. So let's start from the first one. People not willing to invest in their cybersecurity. Let me make sure that the screen is back to the slide. Okay. Is it back to the slide? Let's
I still
see.
see the poll.
Okay. Let's
just
just
something
close
reflecting the poll anyways, but.
Okay, hide the poll.
Is that a slide by any chance?
It should be a slide. Let me
Does
stop
it say quick
sharing.
poll? Because I see quick poll and it looks like, is it something I can interact with? No, that's actually, hit next, just on the off chance that it's maybe you made a slide, you forgot it looks like the poll. I don't know. No, I'm still seeing the poll. That's really odd. And it definitely says that's closed. So that's an odd one. Why don't you try unsharing and resharing? Maybe that'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the poll's still up. even though it
Okay,
had results.
perfect. Yeah. It needed a few nudges to work, right?
That's all
Now
right.
I'm sharing
So,
again
so
the.
welcome to GoToWebinar 101, Andre. And I'm going to be your teacher, Nick, and I'm just teaching you. Yeah, now I see your slide. Now you're good. Yeah, it's all right.
Okay, so Nick, could you please tell us a few situations in which you were faced with the fact that people did not understand the need of investing in proper cybersecurity, and you needed to nudge them a bit so that they get it? And maybe what did you do in the situation in which you already did all the effort possible and they still didn't want to
Well, that's an
understand the
easy
need?
one, but yeah. So I think the first thing is that everybody here, we all have to acknowledge that selling cybersecurity services feels a little like a shakedown. I mean, a good old fashioned, in the middle of the, I don't know, New York City or something like, you got to pay me $200 a week or something bad's going to happen to you. I'm going to make sure it doesn't. It just sounds like, it sounds awful. So it feels like you're just really shaking them down for money. And so I think we can all appreciate that. But the reality is we know that cyber attacks are a reality, that even the smallest of businesses, they are still under attack. And it does become this challenge. And so a couple of ways that I've tried to approach it is, first off, if someone doesn't believe that their industry is a target, sometimes in the past, I've used industry data when it was available, just at least let them see what's going on in the industry. Yes, you haven't been targeted yet, or it hasn't hit you that you know of. Microsoft used to have a wonderful stat. It was like the median number of days that an attacker sits on your network undetected was like 174. I think that was the number. This just sit this that you know of. But if those don't work, then we go the route of the same kind of conversation that we all have with customers when we're talking about, let's say, disaster recovery or backup services, which is to start with the business and go, what would it look like if you were down for like 3 days, or how long could you be without operations and before you're really like you're financially hurting? 5 days or 2 weeks or a day or whatever the answer is, and say, okay, let me tell you about a ransomware attack. And this is where it sort of feels like a FUD and a shakedown kind of a sale pitch. But the reality is, okay, with ransomware, you can have systems down, and the average amount of time it takes to recover and get back up and operating again is this long. And you're trying to appeal to their sense of needing to keep the business running. And in some ways, cybersecurity becomes an insurance policy. So there's two aspects. One is sort of the reality of it, maybe using industry data or anecdotal. And I can tell you, this doesn't necessarily translate into a customer conversation, but as watching the entire cybercrime economy grow, what you're finding is it's growing in the same way that any other industry would, where there are threat groups, even threat actors themselves, where they go, it seems like everybody's focusing on like critical infrastructure. So I don't want to focus there because everybody's doing it. I want to focus on some niche market. You know what? I'm going to go for small dental offices because I could write really good phishing emails that are specific to dental offices because I used to work at one 20 years ago or whatever. I'm just using that as the example, but that's what they're doing. They're focusing on the thing they're really good at. I'm just going to mow lawns for businesses because I did it for people and it's always a hassle. But if I do it for a business, they always pay on time. And I thought that's going to be my niche. I'm going to focus on one thing. And the cybercrime economy is doing the same thing. So every business that you're dealing with, if it's an enterprise, a mid-market, or even the very small business, everybody is susceptible. And then back to your other part of the question, Andre, about what do you do when someone says still don't want it, no matter what you do? Because it just feels like I don't need it. I have antivirus. You put an antivirus, right? It's on there. Oh yeah, it's built in. It's Defender. Great. Now I'm good. Okay, I need you to sign this indemnification agreement. You couldn't see my hand. I was sliding a piece of paper over on the desk, but way down here, and you go, what? An indemnification agreement. It says that if you do get attacked, that one, you're holding me harmless and you're not going to sue me because I made the recommendation that you need to have the services. And two, also listed in this indemnification agreement is my cost per hour that you're going to have to pay to remediate whatever the damages are. And now, again, still feels like a shakedown. So you have to approach this cautiously and lean in on the relationships that you have with your customers as opposed to doing this very bluntly. But the idea is you're going to have to tell them if you don't want the services, keeping in mind that we both know you can't guarantee they'll never be attacked. But maybe you define in your cybersecurity service, there's a certain amount of remediation built into the service. That way you're able to fix something. You'll spend 5 hours, 8 hours a day, whatever it is, something in that field. But if they're not, then you have the indemnification agreement, which is the say, fine, you don't want it. I literally have a dentist that does that. Where if you go, I don't want the cancer screening, stuff in my mouth, and then you do the light check or whatever. You go, okay, that's fine. If you want to pay for it, here you have to sign this that says we recommended it and you didn't want it, and it just helps protect her. It feels a little weird because we're signing legal documents in the middle of a dentist's office, so to speak, and the same thing we're doing it in the middle of your customer's office, but we're signing indemnification agreements because you said you don't want it, and that's how you have to deal with it. That's all you can do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a professional service that should not be taken as a joke, right? How you
Right.
do that with in a doctor's office, or how if you want to check out of the hospital too soon,
Yeah.
they need you
Yeah.
to sign that they have recommended against that strongly, but you
Yep.
still insisted. And this is the same we should treat it as well, because at the end of the day, there's no difference. The only difference is what we operate on and what we keep safe and healthy, right? We don't
Mm-hmm.
keep healthy the human body, but we keep healthy their entire digital infrastructure, which is no joke in today's world. Because
Yeah.
what do? All day long, you have a device in your hand. You work on a device in front of you. So this is
Mm-hmm.
part of us, even if we want to believe it or not. Now, what would you do if they are demanding too many permissions? So let's say they've invested in security. They said, I have invested, so no matter what, I have the warranty that nothing will happen to me. But in this moment, give my C-level local admin rights. And also, they don't want to be bothered by the 2FA or MFA. What do you do?
Okay, so first off, that is the age-old sort of fight that's gone on between productivity on, like, if you were to have a scale, productivity on one side and security on the other. If you think about it, we could make everybody admin and everybody very productive, putting aside like they could screw things up and then cause a problem of their own, and then you have to fix it, that kind of thing. But let's say they didn't, they just did their job in a perfect world. If they all had admin rights, they could just get their job done. There's no restrictions, and any errors. They're not calling you for something I can't print because the printing permissions are wrong, or it goes away. On the flip side, obviously, you could lock things down to way too much, and people can't get their job done. Like, I want to install a printer. You can't install a printer. I have to come over and do it for you because we don't want you installing anything. We don't do the device drivers that have vulnerabilities and supply chain attacks and blah, 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 all that stuff. So the balance has to be there where as part of implementing the cybersecurity services, there should be some tenets within the service level agreement that you have to go over with your customer. And it's largely sort of business level discussion. It's a technical discussion, but it's not. It's a business level discussion saying, okay, if we're going to do this, there are going to be certain things that have to be put in place. And I'm going to use technical terms that we would use so we can talk about this very specifically, but you may have to businessize the verbiage for your customers, however you might want to put it. But something like, at a minimum, you want to get to least privilege. Whatever least privilege looks like for everybody, not just for admins, for everybody. The accounting person that accesses the accounts payable application and prints to that printer over there, in a perfect world, at least get them, that's all they can access, so to speak. And then, apply that same concept to everyone else. At a maximum, it's more like zero trust, but then it usually involves solutions that are actually verifying requests and then providing real-time access, and that's a whole nother conversation. So with your customer, these tenets are about, we're going to be providing the minimum number of permissions to give the user so they can get their job done, and that's it. And then the customer can ask why. And the reason why you do it at the beginning when you're going over the SLA, there's no emotional buy-in yet, where they're going, I can't get my job done, and no, I want to have permission, I want to be admin, just make me admin, and they're mad at you or whatever. Instead, we had this conversation when no one was emotionally invested yet, and we talked about what it's going to look like when we do this. It's not just, cybersecurity shouldn't just be, we're going to put AV here and we're going to put a firewall there, and that's not what you should be doing. You should be trying to secure the environment. And so I think the conversation has to be had well in advance. Does that mean you'll never have the conversation again? Of course not. You're going to have somebody yelling and screaming, somebody who doesn't give a rip what permissions even mean. I'm just the accounting person and I need to get my job done and I can't. And then your boss says, just make them happy. They've been here for 84 years and we got to, it's still going to happen. It's not a perfect solution because we know there's always going to be this balance that has to be maintained. So you just have to figure out what that answer is to make the user happy at the same time, while you feel like you've at least got a level of security Maybe it's a compensating control of some kind, or you're doing something to at least make sure that there's still the level of security that you feel comfortable with, to know that you can provide, this much protection to your customer, whatever this much is. And I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, with this one, I gotta say, I was talking to some US MSPs recently,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, Andrei, this is not a technical talk at all. So whenever they start demanding too many permissions, right? First of all, they should not be able to demand that after the fact, but still they will. So even if they shouldn't, they always do.
It's also important to note, they're not asking for permissions. They're asking to be productive. And so if they say, I want to be admin, okay, happy to address this. Why is it you think you need admin? And what do you need to be able to do? And that's the problem, is the conversation. You want to have the business conversation for a moment. That you can say, oh, well, I just need to be able to add printers. I'll stick with that as the example. Install applications and some other third thing that I just can't come off the top of my head. And then you go, okay, if I gave you those abilities to do that and you're not admin, is that fine? Yeah, and that's the question. But see, the idea is you need to have that conversation, like I said, beforehand. So that way you're always going to tell the customer, what we're going to do is figure out what the business needs are to make these are productive. And the business, the customer, is not going to dictate what the security solution is going to be. You are. That's why they trust you as a partner, because they want you to watch their back. And that's kind of the conversation, is you're asking me to do this, so you need to trust me that I'm going to make sure you're secure, and I will figure out how to make sure you can get your job done the way that you want. But the moment you start telling me how to keep you secure, or the lack thereof, then the relationship dynamic is off, and I can't guarantee that you're going to be secure anymore. But again, having that conversation when no one's emotionally invested is the time to do it.
Yeah, it's like going to a doctor and tell them, no, operate on that side of the kidney, because
Yes,
that's
yes.
how I see it. Yeah, but actually asked a few heavy hitting MSPs from the States and UK,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually ran them through all of these just for my curiosity, and
Mm-hmm.
they said, Andrei, they don't care about security per se. What they care about is they need to be operational. That's what they care about. So if you can explain to them, hey, if we do these things, we open ourselves up to this much risk.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to take that, with understanding in full that this might end up in taking your business down for these many days, your data being exposed, your customers' data, your customers or partners might be contacted with said data, and you can do like one of those how do that call that, when ransomware goes and extorts your triple extortion, right? When they go to your
We're up to
partner.
quintuple extortion, I've seen at this point. It gets stupid, but yeah.
Exactly. So they all said, Andrei, one of the things MSPs unfortunately don't know, because we're all techies, right? We love the tech world. We love
Mm-hmm.
understand how things work and do them. But sometimes we actually need to understand that we also need to learn business talk, because at the end of the day, this is for their business. So unless you talk business, they will not hear you. They will just hear somebody yapping on something like that, and they just want to shut you up at the point. But if you start talking business to them, things will change, and that's for sure.
As you're mentioning that, I'm actually wondering, those of you in the audience, does anybody use indemnification agreements already? If you do, put just something in the Q&A box. But I'm wondering something else that it just hit me now. I always think about how to run businesses and so on these days, and I'm wondering if I got to believe there's an MSP somewhere that, as part of their business model, tells the customer that, as part of the conversation at the beginning, if you ask me to make a change to security that I don't recommend, and I'm recommending against it, you have to sign a change form that you made me do it. It's like that same kind of indemnification, where it's like, if we find that that was the account that it's all your fault and I'm out, and it's not my fault, kind of a thing. And obviously the idea here isn't to place blame and point fingers at each other, but at the same time, you don't want your customer coming after you legally. So I'm just wondering if anybody's actually done it that far. Tracy says, yes, we have clients sign them. Simon says, no, it's a great idea. Tracy, I'm just wondering real quick, if I put you on the spot, it doesn't really matter that much, but do you do anything like I just said? Maybe where you go, if you make everybody admin because I said so, okay, but you're going to sign some kind of form, not an indemnification agreement, but something that says, I agree that it's not recommended, but I still want it done. Sign. And I'm just wondering, even if you don't, it's okay. Care says I write in the invoice. I guess it's putting something along those lines. But I'm just wondering, Tracy, if you have anything like that, I'd be wondering since you have it. Andrew says, no, just started my business, and since the start of the year, definitely will look into this. Yeah, indemnification agreements, at least at a minimum, with the I don't want the service people, definitely have them sign that. Just protect yourself, because it's a when, not an if. Anyways, Andre.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm actually happy that we have people pitching in so much in the chat. That's super cool. In the Q&A box, by the way.
Real quick, Tracy says we haven't done the change form, but we do fire clients we feel expose us to excessive risk. I love you. I love you to tears. That's fantastic. It's like there's so much power. By the way, those of you, like somebody else just said, Andrew said just started his business. There is power in a business. I'm on my fourth. In being able to say no to a customer, and it's very, very powerful because it means you're at a point in your business where no, I don't want that business. I'm going to go find something else. And it's a really good place to be. So I'm really happy for you, Tracy. Anyways, Andre, I'm sorry. I did just commandeering. Apologies.
Don't worry. This is what the session is all about. So no sorry needed. Cool. Let's see the second category that you guys said that gives you grief from time to time when delivering effective cybersecurity. We have tools, right? Finding the right tools seems to be a challenge. Then, if we look at finding the right tools, let's play again cyber trivia. You guys are already warmed up, right? So let's see. The question is, how much time does it take? How much time does an MSP invest to adopt a new cybersecurity tool? And this is in months. Let's do it like that. Let's see. 6 months, coming from Andrew, 3 months, then Dusan, 5 to 6 months, 8 months, 2
Wait, hold on.
months.
Is there a decimal point involved in your answer? Because I think you need to be fair with the audience, you know.
No. You can. It's a range. It's
not
a range.
8.33 again. So I just double check.
No. It's a range. I'll just give you an example from 11 to 12 months. And this is not the correct answer. It's just an example. But it doesn't matter. You can be in that space. I don't mind giving away more licenses. So don't worry about it. Okay, Daryl says 6 to 12 months. Thank you. Cora says 2
Somebody
months.
should just be smart enough and do the Price is Right answer of like $1, Bob, and just go from 0 to 24 months. They're in the range technically, and they do win. So you said they're in the range. So somebody answer that, and then you're definitely going to win. I'm just telling you.
We have the best answer coming in from Zafar. For myself, it never stops. Lol. So guys, the answer in average, and this is again statistics, right? Collected, and I'll show you the source, is 3 to 5 months. Let me see who won. We have Somaya with 3 months. We have Dusan with 5 to 6 months. And yeah, you two are the winners. Andrew, you are pretty close, but Dusan was closer with 5 to 6.
What about my answer? I got 0 to 25. I'm in there. It's in the range. No, that I count. I tried.
Nobody can fault you for trying, right?
It's okay. I know a guy at Heimdal. He'll get me a license. It's fine. This guy, Andrei, he's great.
And this comes from itsecurity.guru.org, right? In case you guys want to check my sources. Good. Let's get back to the problems that we face from the tools. Aside of the fact that we need to find the right tools, we also have the situation that the tools that we find are way too many, right? And I actually look at statistics. In 2020, enterprises were using up to 45 tools to secure themselves. 45. Imagine the time needed to implement, to manage, it's crazy. Then middle enterprise was using about 20. Small businesses were using about 7 to 10 based on MSPs and everybody that was servicing the small businesses. And last but not least, there's also the problem that the complexity is overwhelming, right? Not even going into the fact that margin is going away, that your profit as a business is going away, and so on and so forth. So based on these, let's run the poll so that you guys can vote live. And hopefully this time it will work when we want to cancel the poll. When it comes to tools, which of these challenges do you face most often? Finding the right tools, too many tools, overwhelming complexity, or other, and you share in the Q&A box. And when you think about it, too many tools can mean too much management, too many platforms to train your people on, so on and so forth. So please vote over there. Let us know exactly what, how we steer the conversation this time. And with this one, we're gonna pick two so that we can deep dive into. By the way, I have a surprise for you. Actually, Nick has a surprise for you. Since we, yeah, and you don't
It's a
even
brand
know
new
about
car.
it. You don't even know about it yet, but you will know pretty soon. So
Oh,
since
okay.
this is a conversation that we could go on like hours and hours, what Nick and I thought of is if you guys still want us to dive deeper into some things, I'll make it possible so that you can actually tell us in the post session form, and Nick and I will have a podcast in which we're going to talk about
Yes, I do that
exactly
one.
that. Exactly that. So, yeah, in case we don't have too much time right now, don't worry about it. We will still make sure that we cover everything. So, voting closed. Let's share. On the screen right now, it's clearly the problem that is bothering everybody is the fact that there are too many tools, right? Then the second one is that you need to find the right tools, and then overwhelming complexity. So let's start with too many tools and then move to finding the right tools. Now, Nick, what were you doing when it came to the tools? How many tools were you using back when you were
Oh,
servicing your customers?
there's another caveat to that question, and I'm just going to kind of expand the
Mhm.
question. In my MSP was, I would almost call it the precursor to an MSP today. And the reason is we didn't have all the MSP centric tools back then. It's a lifetime ago, but but it was still outsourced IT, similar the consistent environments, everything's documented, everything was done as a service. I mean, same kind of business model, didn't have all the MSP tools. So we actually had it worse because we had to go through and find regular off the shelf tools for regular businesses, and no multi-tenancy, nothing on the cloud at the time. Cloud was just getting it started. It's a very, very kind of a different timing. And so the challenge was not so much even, well, it was including the number of tools, but it was also the fact that they definitely weren't the right tools, even though that wasn't one of the top of it, was they're all kind of close anyways in the poll. But but the idea here with the too many tools is, I think more than anything, it's probably the learning curve, the fact that they're not integrated. It isn't so much the number, you know, predictability breeds profitability is what I always say, especially when it comes to an MSP business. And so you want a tool that I can go to one dashboard and I can see, something that got normally be 3 different best of breed tools could show me, but I've got 80% of the functionality that covers most everything I need. Whether we're talking about cybersecurity or we're talking about, like an RMM type of service where you're just managing desktops and patching and doing updates to things, whatever it is, we want to have less tools so that the tech isn't spending their time, one, learning those tools. That breaks then the profitability because the tech's time isn't predictable. Now they're having to learn something new and something new and something new. Switching between applications to get one thing done, a lack of integration and a lack of automation. And so this idea of consolidating tools isn't just about, can I just have one tool for everything? Obviously that's not going to work, right? One tool to rule them all, is that right? Yeah, that's sort of instead of one ring to rule them all. And instead, we want to find a set of tools that do consolidate aspects of your business, probably at a minimum down to the service level as much as you can, even if it might not be like I'm not asking you to pitch product, Andre. I know no one wants to hear an hour-long pitch, about anybody's product. But I'm assuming with Heimdal, you still don't have like, oh, you just install this one thing and we cover it all. There's still a number of solutions, but you have figured out ways as an organization to minimize the number of dashboards or the number of admin interfaces or something along those lines, right?
I did promise the entire audience when we did the abstract of the webinar that we will not be pitching product in any way, but
Then you just
yeah,
give me a yes or no and I'll take it, and then that's
basically, yes. This is the vision that our CEO You've impersonated the guy at the beginning of the webinar, right? With
Oh,
the slide with his
oh,
name.
the
That's the
Skarsgård guy,
vision.
whatever his name is. Yeah,
Yeah,
him.
yeah, exactly. So that's the vision. He actually fought with Gartner analysts on it, and a few years later, Gartner analysts were like, "Unification is the way forward," and he was like, "I've been
But
yelling at you
here's
guys."
the thing. Gartner, well, Gartner, by the way, is the teenager of the IT world. They always think they're right. So, and they're not always right. They're just an analyst firm that's looking at trends and they're trying to figure what they think is right. It's fine. But the idea isn't we're trying to unify tools. We're trying to unify management. We're trying to unify tasks. It's about taking, best of breed and making it easy where it's all in a perfect world, a very similar interface. So if I know one app, I could literally pick up the next app and I can go, oh, I know how to navigate over here and I know how to get this and what selection looks like and all that kind of stuff. So too many tools, again, it's not about consolidating tools. I think it's more about consolidating functionality, business operations, actions that have to be taken. And in some cases, integration points can help with that. You still might have two tools, but they integrate, and so you can just automatically have something happen in another tool. Great, you don't have to go to two tools then. You started it in one, and the other tool did the thing for you. Use of AI comes into play, and automation. So all that kind of comes into play. And I know this is still very sort of nebulous and high level, but again, we're not trying to talk about specific tool sets or specific things even from Heimdal, but that's where you want to be going, is thinking about from a business standpoint, how do I make my operations as sort of seamless as possible, where my techs don't have to learn 7 different things. Maybe they have to learn 2 things, 2 dashboards, 2 interfaces that actually work with 15 different products if the case would be. That's still better than 15 separate products. And at the same time, the automation and the rule of thumb that I use for my own businesses is if I have to do anything more than 3 times, and I'm going to have to keep doing it more than 3 times, I have to find a way to automate it. One way or the other, it has to be automated. Figure out a way. So that hopefully would help as well.
That's nice. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
So again, a shameless plug over here. 13 tools, 1 dashboard, the Heimdal way. But moving back to the discussion here, I'm
That
gonna
was not
take the second. Sorry?
I said the previous comment was not a pitch. Just I'm providing the legal advice or
I'm
whatever.
gonna
So,
take the
yeah.
second point that was highly voted by the audience: finding the right tools. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the right tools exist for the business or the customer. There's no
Mm-hmm.
such thing as the best tool in the world. And I've been hearing this a lot. This next thing is the golden bullet. There's no such thing. So if you guys want to go down that rabbit hole, then we need a full podcast on that one, Nick, because
Fine.
when I hear that, I have some
Podcast number
veins
2.
popping up on my forehead when I hear that in the industry, right?
Yeah.
So let's see the last category, because we really want to make sure we cover everything, and I knew we're gonna go on tangents, and I love it,
It's
by the way.
okay. It's all right. Yeah.
Seems the audience is loving it as well. So lack of expertise, what did you guys submit for us here? So first of all, the threadscape, mostly the advanced threadscape, based on what you guys said. We had about 5 people with advanced, only 1 with the regular threadscape. It's very difficult to keep up with it, unfortunately. Then the next part over here is the technology landscape, not just the threat landscape, because the technology evolves, they change. There's a new thing coming up every day. Now it's SIM and SOAR. Tomorrow is unified. In a day from now, you have your AI cyber assistants. This seems to be the latest trend that's coming up right now. Your AI cyber consultant, which sits in the product and just pops up and say, hey, you should do this today, right? That's the new trend that I see popping up all the places. Yeah, then the next one over here is the fact that top talent, and this is, in my opinion, the one that is stinging the most right now. Top talent equals top dollar, and the top dollar part is getting insane. And let's actually see why before we vote. So in 2023, there was a bit of a rush with cybersecurity jobs. And I'm curious, if you guys monitored the market, the industry across the globe, how many jobs in cybersecurity do you think were available at a certain point in 2023? And this is, by the way, again, in millions, just to be fair with everyone. to give you guys a starting chance. Let's see. This is, by the way, the last cyber trivia question. So yeah, let's focus all our attention on this one. Let's see.
Aren't you going to give them
13
a unit of
million.
measure? You've been giving them units of measure before. I think that'd only be fair.
Yep.
It's in tens of jobs. How many tens of jobs are available in?
We have Dusan coming in with 13 million. We have Andrew coming in with 15 million. Let's see, anybody else wants to pitch in on this one? 20 million by Daryl. Simon says 16 million. Good. Let's see, anybody else? No? Yes? No? Maybe? Cool. Then let's give this one to Dusan, Andrew, Simon, and Daryl, right? This is like a bonus. It's a hidden bonus. Everybody gets it. It's approximately 3 million. Just the European Union was hiring at the point 900,000 people. 900,000. And this was a post on LinkedIn, and they were like listing all the roles. It was infrastructure architect, security, a SOC analyst, level 1, 2, 3, everything. So guys, all of you guys that responded to this one are taking home the license. And as a source, this comes from Forbes, Trellix, Computer Weekly, and also ISC Squared, right? Now let's get back to this and let's see which of these has impacted you most in 2023, and in general when you have the mission of delivering effective cybersecurity to your customers. So yeah, you can vote multiple, and you can also just bring some more if you want to, but don't tell us how much you pay your technicians. That should be a secret.
Someone will lose their job otherwise, or something. At least ask for a raise. I don't know.
It's actually pretty tight. Threat landscape is the biggest. Then we have technology and overwhelming complexity on the second. Actually, the overwhelming complexity is the top dollar one. It seems it slipped over there in the whatchamacallit, poll editing. Okay, cool. Let's stop the vote so that we can start talking. We are going to talk about the threatscape. So that's the first thing that is most important. Let me share with everybody so that you see the transparency. You voted. Threat landscape is the biggest concern. And then overwhelming complexity, we're going to consider this as being the top dollar part, which is the third item on the page. So yeah, let's hide. Let's get back to the slide. And Nick, how would you navigate the part with the threat landscape?
This is an interesting one because I make my living on the one hand as a full-time technical evangelist, which means I spend all my time looking at industry trends and reports and stories and data and trying to figure out what's going on and listen to vendors and I mean all that kind of stuff. I'm like Gartner without the attitude, that kind of thing. So but you all don't have the time to do that. And so the challenge is I think the reality is you're never going to be able to keep up with the threat landscape. So the answer is, well, then what do I do? Because I have to know what's going on, what's next, and so on. And I think what that really has to do with, and I'm going to sound a little pitchy because this has to do with a partner like Heimdal, but I'm not talking about them specifically. Use any vendor you want. Insert vendor here, so at least I'm remaining vendor neutral. But Andrei's like going Heimdal the whole time I'm talking. It's probably what's going to happen. But if you think of the model that you have, your business model is your customer doesn't have the expertise and they don't have the ability to know what they should put in for cybersecurity or for RMM or for backup and disaster recovery, all those other things that you provide. So what do? They went and they got a partner who has that expertise. Now, you need to provide that expertise. You actually don't have time to do it. And what's interesting, going back to the top dollar person, the top talent, you don't actually want top talent. You want top outcome. That's what you want, top outcome. So, man, no, thank you. He's Heimdal. Yeah, so I'm not pitching them. I don't care. You use whoever you want. I don't work for them. But The idea there is then you should be thinking about using the exact same business model that you are providing to your customers. I, the MSP, don't have the expertise. I can't stay up with the threat landscape because I have a million other things. I can't afford the top talent anyways. That's why I want to weave that one in. And the reality is you probably don't need to. And I'll explain why in a second as well. So you partner with a company that does nothing but focus on the threat landscape and let them do it. So that, and here's why. We're in a SaaS model, right? Everything you use today pretty much is online so that you have multi-tenancy really super easy and it's web-based management and blah, 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 right? In any as a service model, there's this stuff that you do and the stuff that the provider does. If you've got managed 365 services, are you installing Exchange servers? No, they do that. Do you have to, worry about, I don't know, routing configurations or something in SharePoint and how to make sure that libraries are linked properly with OneDrive and the backend? No, they do all that. That's why you partner with them. All you do is manage it. And I think that's where you got to focus on instead of having to worry about, I need to know the threat landscape. No, you don't. You just have to manage the threat landscape. And that's the way to be a really successful MSP, because then the work becomes predictable. And again, predictability breeds profitability. So I'm going to keep the answer short because we have 5 minutes left, but that's the answer.
Nice. That's a good one. And yeah, outsourcing, automating, using as many of your partners as possible is the solution here. Because if everybody goes crazy with the price for this personnel that has the expertise, we can't just fuel this, because then they're going to be more crazy with the price and so on and so forth. That's why partnering up.
Let me interject as well. The idea of, let's say, even having just like managed XDR services, because I know Heimdal, I can talk about it. I just want to make sure it's something you offer as opposed to something you don't. But you, instead of you having to have, I need a bunch of security analysts, I need to build a SOC, and I have to build all these processes and run playbooks. No, you don't. Just outsource it. Let somebody else do it who does a really good job, has a great efficacy rate. And they're the ones worrying about making sure they do that. Why? Because they want to keep you as a customer, just like you want to keep your customers as a customer. So that makes more sense. You instantly have a team of people, and you're also now doing it in a model that works with exactly what you need to do, which is a monthly OpEx expense instead of something that's a CapEx. And it makes more sense to do it that way. And so anyways, Andrei.
Yeah, it's just wise business in everybody's opinion. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, guys, just as a quick conclusion over here, I'll run a quick animation over here. So let's say effective cybersecurity is the purpose. MSP, which is you, are sustaining this, but then you have the tools coming in, which is a stress. It presses on you. Then you have the expertise that's missing, the expensive resources. This presses again on you.
Look at that.
Then we have customers, which basically are the last draw, right? And now everything is shaking, right? But actually, it doesn't need to be like this. Be smart. Do not follow the industry as the industry tries to paint things right now. Don't get caught up in this game of over complexity, because you'll end up in breaking everything. But if you come back, make your customers willing to invest, right? Use tactics from here. If you think these tactics were not enough, tell us in the post webinar survey, because Nick and I will run a podcast exactly on what you guys tell us. Make sure customers don't have conflicting priorities when it comes to their security. Make sure they're willing to accept less risk, right? Not too much as they do, expertise, tools, and so on. So only this is the solution that you guys can actually stay afloat. And the idea is, which is an opportunity for you, MSP business is booming right now. It's an explosion because people don't know technology. They don't want to worry with this. They just want to offload this to the right MSP, which is you. Now, before we end up, and we will take 1-2 questions, anything else we'll keep for the podcast. Just wanted to say, since this webinar is sponsored by Heimdal, this is what Heimdal does. We're the largest XDR stack in the marketplace. You won't find any other XDR that does like patching and privilege admin rights or email security. We have it all. And we also do it in a managed service 24/7 SOC type of situation. For anyone that wants to see exactly what are the products, take a screenshot. It's over here. And for anyone that wants to come in contact with us, what I would suggest is book an Ask Me Anything session with me. No strings attached. We just talk about what you want to talk about. or, and actually I would say, and go and visit Conversational Geek, because there are so many valuable resources there. Ebooks, webinars, podcasts, and so on. Nick has a mission to evangelize technology and IT in general. So yeah, this is a vault of knowledge and experience. So why not take advantage of it? And with that being said, you'll have all these links in the post-webinar email and survey. And I would like to take a question out of all of the questions that we have over here.
Mhm.
And I want to select one that you guys added in the webinar registration form. And this is, how do we, and I believe this is a good one for all MSPs, mostly the ones with smaller customers, how do we help especially smaller organizations with less resources to become more secured? How about startups? And anybody that still wants to hear this response coming from Nick, they can sit with us for a few more minutes, 2-3 minutes, I believe Nick will take us, right?
Mhm. Yeah, no
Cool,
worries.
cool. So Nick, go. How would you do about securing a small organization, considering they have limited resources?
So obviously the first step is there should be engaging with an MSP. I mean, I think we're all kind of on that level set, and that's the idea. And I'm going to kind of go back to the tools. Those of you that have been in the MSP space for, say, the last decade, you've watched a transition where, not exactly 10 years ago, but let's just call it 10 years ago, the tools for MSPs were like different subsets of the same tools that would be used for, let's say, an enterprise. And today, it's all the same tool set. And so I think the idea of trying to secure, a startup might be a little bit of a weird one, only because a lot of startups just say we're going to do everything in the cloud, and so nothing's on premises and that kind of thing. But I think it just goes back to the tool sets that you're using and ensuring whatever you have in place is something that scales not just up, because that's normally what we focus on as a business. We're like, I want to have a customer with 1,000 seats. Yeah, because it's 1,000 seats worth of revenue. Nobody wants I want somebody with just 2 seats because I want to go to the beach every day. No one's doing that, right? And so the idea is that you find solutions that don't just scale up, but solutions that scale down. And it's not overly burdensome because it's designed for an enterprise and they happen to make it multi-tenant. That's not the answer. The answer is designed for an MSP and it happens to scale up and scale down. So I think it really just goes back to the solutions that are used more than anything, because the smaller business, let's even say the very small business who won't exactly work like even like 5 people in an office, aren't going to be exactly the same as a 50-person office, because they have servers and routers and that kind of thing. But the small enough office where they're running like a regular business, 10 people, 15 people, something like that, or they've got some IT infrastructure, there's no reason why you can't run those people and manage them in the exact same way. At least there shouldn't be if you have the right tools.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I know your schedule is not as open as I would like to, because I would like to have you more often on these type of events.
We're on the 4th hour of our webinar today, and I don't have that much time. But
thank you to the audience for taking the time. Thank you for submitting the challenges. And don't forget, in the webinar survey, you have the opportunity to submit any topic that you want Nick and myself to dive deeper into a full-blown podcast. And anybody that submits anything in that box will get a notification when the podcast happens, so that you can see it. And yeah, get in touch, go visit Conversational Geek, take advantage of all the resources that are there. And I'm not joking, there are a lot of them. So do that, and yeah, connect. Don't be shy. You know where to find us.